Welcome to my tutorial for Twisted Metal 2 on the hard difficulty. And yeah, I edited out all the lost continues, so it's basically going to be showing levels being beaten on the default 3 lives unless I carried them over and beat the level. But the way it works is you have unlimited continues pretty much, but every time you exhaust all your lives you have to put in the password for the level, which shows up on the pause screen. Yeah, so I would recommend using Axel. My playstyle is very aggressive. I beat some of the harder levels in 3 minutes. I actually went back and redid the first 3 levels to get better times just to make the run a little bit more refined. I didn't really keep track of the exact time it took me to beat hard, but I beat this game many years ago when I owned it on normal with all the characters except Sweet Tooth, because with Sweet Tooth you don't get any passwords, so you have to beat it on one go, and he kind of sucks. So I never did beat it with Sweet Tooth on normal, but that was many years ago. So I decided to replay this game after the Ripper 999, my good friend. He's doing a Taz run, a tool-assisted run of this game, and he got me into just playing a regular run again and playing the game again. So I decided to try it on hard. I would recommend using Axel because he's used pretty much by all the top speedruns of the game. And for good reason. He has really strong ramming, extremely strong ramming when he rams the enemy, and he can pretty much grind out their health bar. He also has, I think, some of the most armor in the game, so he can take a lot of damage. And the one thing about him is his handling is not too good, so you got to get used to turning with him because he turns really... he's a little bit hard to control because he has these really tight turns. So it does take some getting used to. And he's a big character that can get stuck on things, but he he does great damage with his ramming, so I can just freeze and ram guys to death. His special weapon is also quite weak, but it has the benefit of regenerating quickly. The special weapons regenerate after a certain amount of time, so you can hold like 4 of them, maybe more, if you let them regenerate. And they don't do a lot of damage, but they can hit like 3 or 4 enemies grouped together easily. So you can get in crowds and just, if you have 3 or 4 of those special moves saved up, their area effect type of special moves, so they explode outward. And they'll hit all the enemies at once and wear out the health on a bunch of enemies. So you can use it for that. You can also use it to pop the enemies up into the air, which kind of stuns them a little bit because it messes up their aim and kind of disorients them. So you can pop them up in the air with it, and as they're coming down, already be, driving toward them, ready to ram them again. And you can get some good combos by mixing the area attack special move with the ram. And of course, turbo ramming does a lot more damage than just ramming with your regular speed. So if you have turbo available, it's the tires you collect on the tracks. If you have enough, you can hold triangle and get a turbo boost, which will make you move much faster. And you ram with that, you'll do massive damage. So, your at default controls, your L1 and R1 buttons will switch out your weapons. Whatever weapons you picked up, you can swap between them, either left or right. You can cycle them left or right. And there's also special moves, which I recommend looking them up on GameFAQs. There's a bunch of special moves you have that aren't. They're not the special move that says special in your weapon selection that regenerates. They're actually special moves that use that bar that's right above, where it shows the missiles and your various weapons selected. Right above that is a bar. That bar depletes every time you use those specific special moves. They're kind of done like fighting game moves. The most important one is left, right, up on the directional pad. That'll do freeze. And you're going to want to freeze enemies when you have enough of the bar available and ram them, as you see me doing here. Very massively used technique for me with Axel. And I believe if you do right, left, and up on the directional pad, you'll put a shield up on your character, which makes you invincible for a very short period of time, but it can save your ass if you're about to die, or if you're doing something dangerous and you don't want to get knocked out of an area. So keep that in mind. You can also fire backwards by left, right, and down, I believe. Whatever weapon you have selected will be fired backwards if it's able to be fired backwards. That can be very useful, especially enemies chasing you and on the last boss. because some of the weapons like homing missiles and fire missiles have a slight homing capability. So if enemies are generally, behind you fairly, not too far to the left or right, those weapons can hit and do damage. So you may want to rear fire every once in a while. I didn't use it until the last level in this playthrough, but on the final boss it works well on, because he's constantly chasing you, so you can kind of shoot backwards. But yeah, for my playstyle, I just tried to go as aggressive as possible. Like I said, I redid the first 3 levels because I wanted a better time. I was kind of just learning on the first 3 levels, and then I got better at the game, so I decided to go back and just, use that newly acquired skill to beat the levels faster. So you'll see some levels go, down in like 3 minutes. My style is basically, since I have 3 lives, my first 2 lives will be very aggressive and trying to kill everyone as fast as possible, usually. Then if I need to, I may play more carefully on my last life to try to survive. But, basically I try to take out the enemies real fast. That's just my play style, really aggressive and reckless. But I try to be precise with, taking guys out. That's kind of how I play a lot of games. So it just kind of carried over to this game. You also have squares accelerate, but if you press X while you're accelerating, or if you're just still, if you hold X, you'll do tight turns. So when you press left and right on the directional pad, you'll do a real tight turn. And you want to use that to make really tight turns. It's kind of like an emergency brake in a racing game. Also, if you press down on the directional pad, that's your brake. So you can use the brake with the tight turn and then make your turn, and you can make tight turns as you're slowing down once you get good at it. It takes some getting used to. A lot of times you're going to want to tap the accelerator too, because if you're accelerating too fast, especially with Axel, he'll jump all over the place, especially if there's a slight incline. He'll be bouncing and jumping all over the place. So you want to try to control your acceleration with some braking and just tapping the accelerator sometimes, and using the momentum you already have. So you got to get used to that. That's part of getting used to the control. It's also useful to hold down the machine gun button a lot to get that extra chip damage when you're approaching enemies, because you'll get a little extra damage from that as well. But a lot of times, one of my main techniques that I use is, of course, I use the radar to try to see what direction the enemies are from me. And the radar may also show the elevation of the enemy if they're on a roof or on the ground, but I'm not sure. But I noticed some people were able to determine that from the radar, I think. So it may show something a little bit different. But basically, the colored dots are the different enemies. So each color represents a different enemy. And the X in the middle is your character. So it gives you an idea of what direction the enemies are approaching you from. So I look at that a lot, and then what I try to do is freeze an enemy, left, right, and up on the directional pad. We'll send out a freeze burst, and then I'll try to turbo towards them, or just drive normal if I don't have turbo. And I'll be machine gunning and firing my weapons as I'm doing that, and then I'll just ram the shit out of them. Once I get up to them and ram them, I'll start grinding against them and chipping away their health. I also reverse ram, because you don't need a lot of distance to ram them from reverse either. You can ram at very close range with Axel and do massive damage. Once you get in close, you can just keep running them over. So you don't have to keep getting back and getting a bunch of speed. You don't need to do that with Axel. The initial hit, I like to try to get a really hard, fast hit, but after that, I'll try to grind them. And I'll use what weapons I have. I'll use the area attack. Just remember, when you use your special weapon with Axel and you're ramming somebody, it's going to pop them in the air. So it may pop them over your head and mess up your ramming. So if you do pop them up in the air with the special, back up a little and get ready to ram again as soon as they land and start assaulting them again immediately. And try to combo the shit out of the enemy and kill them as fast as possible. If you're getting surrounded by enemies, you also use that special to pop them up in the air and damage multiple enemies. But you can get some really powerful combos with the weapons, and you can really get enemies stuck to where they can't recover, and you can just kill them. See, Sweet Tooth, I try to ram them from the side as well whenever I can. That way they can't shoot me if I'm hitting them from the side, and also it's a larger target to hit, so you can roll them over a lot by hitting them in the side a lot and just really ram up against them and destroy them. So I would say try to hit them from the side if you can. I mean, the back is okay too. The front is dangerous because as soon as they unfreeze, they'll start unloading on you. Once you beat level 4, the enemies get super fucking aggressive, and they'll spam special weapons like crazy. I mean, they'll freeze and use their special weapons unlimited. They never run out of either, and they'll spam it like crazy. So it helps to be the aggressor and to really fuck the shit out of them before they have a chance to do anything to you. You know, the first 4 stages are the easy part. Once you get to stage 5 is when the game gets very aggressive. You'll see once you get to New York, the game, you know, they really get aggressive. But they're even aggressive here. There's not a huge difference that I noticed between normal and hard, but I'm sure there's a decent little difference. I haven't played normal in a while, but I remember normal being similar to this. But the game spikes up in difficulty on normal and on hard once you get to the 5th level. Easy mode ends early. If you play on easy, it'll end after the 4th level, so you can't finish the game on easy. There is also a password for the final boss, so you don't have to fight the 8 enemies prior to the final boss in Hong Kong again once you beat them. It shows up on the pause screen, so it's completely legit, but it's very easy to miss. I never knew about it. I found out about it recently. But, and also you want to know where your health packs are. You'll see me getting various health packs. You want to keep an eye on them, and you want to know which health packs will give you partial life back and which ones will give you full health. There's usually like at least one health pack on a level that'll give you full health back. I don't know if all levels have them, but they are in a number of the levels. So it's good to know where those are, and you know, don't use them until you need them so that you can kind of survive as long as possible. Outlaw is one of the more troublesome enemies because of his lightning, and he'll just combo the shit out of you. Same with Twister. And Mr. Slam can be very dangerous. Those guys will spam their specials, and it's very hard to recover. So those are good opponents to take out first. If you're trying to take out certain people first, you may want to take out the more troublesome enemies first. And those are definitely 3 opponents. Thumper is also a big nuisance with his flame. He can really burn you to death if he's facing you. Plus you have residual burn damage once you're on fire. So the way to get rid of that burn damage is to use turbo. That gets rid of the fire when you get set on fire. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so if you do run out of your lives, you will have to put in a password. To see how it's shown right here on this screen, and it's also shown when you pause the game. And of course, you can get all the passwords by going on GameFAQs. If you didn't write it down for whatever reason, you can, you know, just get it that way. Now, on this level, you have to take out 6 enemies, and then you have to fight Minion. So once you take out the 6 enemies, even if you have no health left, you'll get all your health back for Minion. But you'll still have as many lives as you had remaining when you killed all the enemies. So you won't get any of your lives back. You'll just have to start the level over if you lose on Minion. But for this part, you know, you can pull a lot of bullshit by going in these little entrances that I'm going to show. You can hide inside these doors and cause a lot of problems, which I do end up doing, I think, on this run. Here's some health here, so you know, don't forget about the health pickups. Try to collect as many weapons as you can too, because it's only going to help you with comboing the enemies to death. I didn't play this level like super aggressively or do super well on this level, you know, but after that, the other levels go down really fast, except for the final level. So I got on a roll with levels 5. I think levels 5 and 6. But yeah, try to stay alive. You know, try to get that health. There's also an underground health right here. It's a statue you destroy, and you'll open up this passage that I'm going in right here, and there's some health down here. Yeah, I think that's the full health. I think that one gives you full health back. So that's a good one to... it may. I'm not sure. I think it may. I don't really remember, but you can get some weapons up here as well. In a moment, you're probably going to see some doors you can go into. I think I do end up going in these doors. There's these hidden doors that you can break down, which are very useful. Basically, enemies don't really hit you when you're inside those doors, for the most part. It does happen sometimes, but it's a pretty safe spot to hide and shoot enemies from and pull bullshit. It's in this little pyramid right here. I should be going in there soon. I'm pretty sure I ended up doing that on this playthrough, but I can't remember. But yeah, try to just roll these enemies over and ram into them until they die. Use all your weapons that you have available. You'll get used to comboing enemies and grinding them to death like really quickly. I started to get better at that after this level. See, by this point I wasn't really that good at it, so this level is not really that well played. But I played the first 3 levels pretty well. I cut off like 8 minutes from my original run on the first 3 levels by redoing them with the skills I had acquired, you know, from beating the rest of the game, levels 5, 6, and 7. So then I just went back and said, fuck it, I'll just redo it. It'll look better for the tutorial to be, you know, a better viewing experience and a better run. It was really a lot of fun to revisit this game. This is one of my favorite games, or it was back when it came out, and I still, it's one of the best games on the system to me. Yeah, this is one of those doors that I broke into. So if you rewind the video, you'll see I broke the door down and went in here. And if you shoot these buttons, there's like 3 or 4 different buttons you can shoot on these little pillars. And when you machine gun them or shoot them, it'll so you don't get hit too often. But Spectre can kill you because he can shoot ghost missiles through the walls, as well as Shadow. You know, guys like that can shoot through walls. But yeah, so these pillars, if you shoot them, it'll make a first aid healing appear and some weapons. So you can get some health in here if you need it. And some weapons. These guys were causing me some problems, as you can see. So yeah, this was kind of an endurance level for me. I really didn't do it too fast. But it does speed up after this. You know, I end up taking the other levels out pretty quick. But yeah, I'll probably end up going back inside that pyramid again if I remember right and pulling some bullshit with that. There's 2 doors on this pyramid. See them? You can break both of those doors. You just got to know where to hit them. If you don't know exactly where it is, it's a slightly discolored patch on the pyramid. There's 2 slightly discolored patches. Those are the doors. And if you want to break them down and you're not sure exactly where they are, if you can't see them, then use your area attack. And if you're a little bit off, it'll still hit and destroy it. Now what I like to do here is set the bomb here and back up. And then you don't even have to detonate the remote bomb. The guys will usually just run into it. Just make sure you put it a little bit outside the door, like a little bit ahead of the door. If it's too close, it'll hit you inside there. It has a big range. You can detonate it manually if you want to, but you really don't have to. But see, it did massive damage to Shadow, so it's a good trap to set. So use those little entrances if you're having trouble. You know, at first I just tried to see what I could do normally, and then I said, fuck it, I'll just use this little cheap method that I used to use. I wanted to make the videos a little bit more faster paced, so I wasn't, you know, trying to camp out for too long when making a tutorial. Even though this was my first time, you know, beating hard mode. I wanted to make it, you know, I didn't want to make it, like, too lengthy. Yeah, Shadow's almost dead here. Another pain in the ass enemy can be Warthog because he's not too difficult, but he has a lot of armor, so he can take a while to wear down. Shadow's a big pain in the ass, though, not because of his armor or speed, but just because of his ghost, his tombstone explosions that travel along the ground. They go through walls, and they do a lot of damage, so he's another guy that's not really great to have moving around. Mr. Grimm is super easy to kill. He only takes a few rams to kill with Axel. Super easy to kill, but if you get hit by a special attack, it does massive, massive damage to you. You do not want to get hit by a skull attack. That's kind of the trade-off with Mr. Grimm. Super easy to kill, but if you fuck up, he can really destroy you. Grasshopper is a very weak enemy and not too dangerous. It's one of the easiest enemies to deal with Axel. The real challenge, you know, after you get to stage 5 and get used to the spike in difficulty with the opponents, hopefully you get used to Axel's movement and, you know, get better at ramming and comboing enemies to death so you can take them out fast before they can spam their special moves on you and just destroy you. Because they will. They'll go fucking wild on you if you're not careful. You want to be, you know, fast and efficient if you're using this tutorial to use this method with Axel. At least the way I play the game. You know, you can play this game much more patient and slower. Many play styles and ways to win, but you know, since I'm making a tutorial, this is a strategy I use, so I'm just making a tutorial on what I did. But yeah, these entrances are very useful, especially when you're in trouble, and especially on Minion. Minion will just hang outside the door like the whole time, and you can just spam him with weapons. I recommend for Minion, collect all your weapons up that you want. You know, collect a bunch of fucking weapons if you can, and then go inside one of those doors. And then just camp out and just shoot him in the doorway. Set up your remote explosive, he'll run right into that. Remember that Axel's area attack will also go through the door somewhat, so you can use that when he's close. See, now I barely had any life, but now I'm going to get fully replenished life since I killed all the enemies. But I'll still have my 1 life remaining. But yeah, for here, you know, just collect all your weapons. You know, try to collect as much as you can before minion causes you too much of a, you know, a disturbance with your health. And then I should have collected more weapons, but I wasn't really playing it, you know, super well. I knew I had another life left, so I was not playing super carefully. But yeah, if you hang outside this door here, you know, you'll see you can just fuck around out here and have some fun with them. Another special attack that you should look up on Game Facts that you may like for Minion is you can use Minion's actual special attack, his super powerful shot. But it uses a ton of your special move bar, so it's not really that practical to use in a regular game most of the time. But if you're camping outside this door not taking any damage, you can just use it to get Minion's health down even faster. Since you really don't need to use Freeze, you might as well use his Minion special move. But you know, look that up on Game Facts, because I didn't remember that one, because I only used it like once or twice in the game. I don't even think I used it in this run. But I did use it in my attempts on Minion. But yeah, I mean, you see this is pretty fucking easy if you just hang out. You can use your shield if you get up too close. You may want to use your shield briefly to do some extra attacks, but if you're patient, you can just kind of sit here. You know, sometimes you want to move forward sometimes to kind of lure him back. You know, get his attention again, because it seems like sometimes he may forget about you a little bit, but he usually just comes back. See, I hit him through the wall with my area attacks. So if you go right to that edge and do that, you can get some hits in. It's worth using that. And those regenerate, so if you don't want to go out and collect weapons, you can just collect a bunch of area attacks. He also does take pretty decent damage from ramming and grinding into him, but not as much as other enemies do, because he has a lot of armor, so he doesn't take huge damage from that. You can't go up to him and ram the shit out of him to death like you can with, you know, with the other enemies. But if he's close to death, you can do a little ramming and use some weapons. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Not too hard. Pretty damn easy if you use the door technique. Now this is where the game starts to get a lot harder. So your Axel skills are going to start to be put to the test here. Enemies become super, super aggressive is the main difference. They just spam shit like crazy. They'll freeze you and special move. Like, it'll be like special move, freeze, special move, freeze, special move, freeze, etc. And they won't stop. And if there's multiple of them, they'll all be doing that too. So you got like 1,000 fucking shots coming at you. New York is also very dangerous and advantageous as well. It's dangerous because you can easily fall off or get knocked off. But it's an advantage to you because, as you'll see I do, I ram guys off the edge. And if you have good control of Axel, if you can stop fast enough, you can use that to your advantage. But it'll take some practice to get your maneuverability, you know, to that level where you can play around on the rooftops and get a little reckless. I played New York very aggressively. It was actually pretty hard for me and taking me a while, but then I got much better with Axel and I got very aggressive. See, Spectre goes off the side here, and I believe that killed him. I think that was a deadly ledge. But see, then I went off the ledge too. You see how easy it is to go off. But luckily I had 2 more lives left, so I didn't have to worry about... I still continue to play super, super dangerously and aggressively. And it does end up working out on this run. But, you know, you do have 3 lives to play with. So just try to take down... See, 2 guys are already dead. I think 1 probably fell off chasing my corpse. Sometimes they'll chase your dead body and jump off in suicide. It's insane. The AI is pretty weird in this game. But, yeah, so now I got these guys moving around here. And I'm using the area attacks to damage them both. So that's accelerating things. Of course, it's very dangerous to be playing around with Twister on a rooftop. Because you can easily, when you're in this tornado, you can easily just fall off the edge of the building and stuff. But like I said, I was playing with the intention, like, if I die, I die. I'm just going fucking wild at this point. And I take that into the next levels. So now there's only 2 enemies left. But I do recommend playing really aggressively if you can get used to controlling Axel fairly well. Because if you can get used to Axel and his ramming and his moves, you can really do some massive damage. I mean, you know, that's why people are using him to speed run with, because he can kill shit in minutes. You know, it is dangerous, but you know, it can be done. And it's really not... I don't think it's too bad once you practice with Axel and get better at maneuvering with him. You know. Now, if you press up, and left, I believe it is, you'll do this. You'll see in a moment. It's a jump. So that'll help you occasionally. I only use it probably on that one part in the game, but you may find it useful to get into other areas as well. Now, jumping into here is good because you get a first aid pack in here, and it usually takes you a while for enemies to find you in here. And when they do, you can set traps and pull some bullshit in here. But it can also be dangerous because you're in a very confined area, and if multiple enemies appear, you can get pretty fucked up. So it has its pros and cons, but it's kind of a safe area to hang out for a little while. You know, eventually enemies do find you. What I do here, I believe, is I set a bomb right where enemies fall down. See, watch. When I back up, enemies fall down right about there. So if they fall on that, they'll get detonated immediately. So I just leave that there, and then I just leave. I don't know if anyone actually fell on top of that and got damaged, but I just left it there. Remote bombs can be very dangerous to use in close combat situations unless you're really good at putting your shield on real fast and then using it so you don't take any damage. If you don't do that, it's extremely dangerous. Even though it will take a lot of damage if you detonate it, it'll hurt the enemies a lot. Especially if there's multiple enemies. So you may want to do it sometimes and just lose some health. But it's usually a very dangerous thing to do. So remote bombs are usually better for setting traps, I think. If you put them in areas where enemies may be prone to cross over. If enemies are chasing you, they may drive over them. Things like that. So yeah, now I'm going to get more aggressive. I'm on my final life now, so now I finish these guys off. I play more careful at this point because there's only 2 guys left and I just want to make sure I beat it. So I use my area attacks, finish off Thumper, and damage Sweet Tooth. Now, I ram Sweet Tooth off a ledge, but he somehow survives. Now, my guess is that he must have landed on a platform down there or something. I couldn't see if there was a platform down there, but I was intending to ram him off the edge of the building, but it didn't quite work out. But luckily, oh yeah, you can get that health there too on the rooftop, don't forget. Now, to get that health pack, what I do is I accelerate normally towards the rooftop, and then when I get to the slope, right before the first aid pack, I use my turbo right in the middle of that slope that's right below the first aid pack, and that gives me just enough speed to get the first aid pack. You have to get your speed just right to hit that first aid. It's a little tricky to get, but after getting it a few times, you'll get used to the acceleration that you need. Now, I try to freeze him in midair so he falls in the pit, but my timing was off. But that's okay. I ram him to death, and that ends Sweet Tooth. So yeah, now these next levels are going to go down in about 3 minutes apiece, very quickly. The next 2 levels. So these levels, I think these were my best performances of the run. I wasn't going for a speed run or anything. It's just the way I play. I play very fucking aggressive. So I don't remember how long this game took me to beat on hard recently. It was definitely a few hours, but it wasn't a ton of time. I didn't really keep track. I was kind of just playing the game, and I did post my unedited hard run, so I have most of the unedited attempts in that run, but I didn't really keep track, because there was some footage I didn't post because it was just failed attempts on the final level where I didn't make any progress, so I didn't post that. So yeah, I try to take out enemies immediately on this level, and keep in mind that there's parts of the level that fall off. Parts of the ground will fall into the ocean, so when you see steam coming out of the ground, get the fuck out of there, because it's going to fall. And luckily, sometimes enemies will be on the parts that fall, and sometimes several enemies will die because they're stupid enough to stay on there. If you can, try to bump them on there, while it's falling, and you may trap them on a ledge, too, or freeze them on a falling ledge. You can kill them that way, too. But here I just kind of went on a spree and took out a bunch of guys in one life. And then I believe on the next life I finish off the remaining enemies. But I was playing very aggressively. I wasn't really worried about getting health or anything. I just wanted to do as much damage as I could my first 2 lives. And I'm trying to remember any tactics I missed. I think I covered all my tactics pretty much that I use with Axel. About comboing and freezing and ramming and all that. Trying to get guys in a group and just beat the shit out of everybody. Like, ram into the crowd and just use your area attacks to, get a few combos on them. Remember, don't do the area attack 2 times in a row real fast, because the guy will still be airborne from the first area attack. You want to wait a moment for them to fall back to the ground before you start trying to chain those specials. Just keep that in mind. I know it's simple shit, but if you have a tight combo where you're getting all your hits in, you'll kill guys really fast. So it can be very useful. Just those little nuances can make a big difference in getting guys out of there and moving on to the next victim. Yeah. So now I'm finishing off Warthog. You see this went very quickly. Enemies were just, in my path and ready to be destroyed, so it worked out well. I do fuck around a little here with Warthog as he gets out of my line of sight a little bit, but he does die very soon once I get him back in my line of sight. Now the next level can be the hardest level in the game, Holland, because it has 9 enemies. For me, it was the easiest level in the game, strangely enough, because I already got good with Axel, and I beat it my first attempt in about 3 minutes. So, I thought it was going to be one of the hardest levels, but because it has 9 enemies and it's an open field, so there's not really anywhere to go. But with Holland, keep in mind something with this next level is that the enemies, sometimes they're turned off, where they're not even moving, and then the AI actually turns on when you get within range. So try to fight, try not to get the attention of all the enemies at once. Try to get the attention of only a few enemies, like 3 or 4, and try to just beat the shit out of them first, before moving all the way across the map. That's probably what I would recommend doing. Focus on one enemy at a time, even if you can, like what I'm doing here. Just try to take out one at a time. If you can get a group, try to deal with them, but like I said, guys like Mr. Slam are prime targets because they're a pain in the fucking ass. They'll slam the shit out of you, especially at this part of the game on hard. He gets very aggressive with that, and he'll destroy you. So you want to just fuck him up. And if you're gonna ram him, make sure he's frozen, because see, he can grab you very easily. Luckily, I got away from him. I almost killed him before he was able to grab me, but it's very dangerous if he grabs you. But you see, I'm going through these guys very quickly. I made it my goal to just pretty much take out everyone as fast as possible with little concern for my health. I didn't even know where the health packs were on this level. This was my first time playing it in years. And like I said, I got it on my first attempt. I was just using the aggressive methods I was using previously. And, after New York, my skill got better, and then that carried over for the rest of the game. Though I did have a good amount of trouble with the final bosses, but I have some pretty good techniques that I used in my final run that will, give a good idea what to do. But yeah, the basics of Axel that I explained pretty much will carry you through the entire game, except for the last bosses. Because you can't ram the last bosses, really. I mean, you can do it a little bit, but you're not going to want to try to, damage the bosses by ramming them to death or anything like that. They can take you out very fast. It's more of hit and run tactics with the weapons. Collect as many weapons as you can and just keep attacking the bosses, hit and run, and use that rear fire I told you about. It's left, right, and down with your equipped weapon. It'll fire it backwards if it's able to be fired backwards. I think most weapons, or all weapons, can be fired backwards, except for your area special attack kind of thing that you have. Some special attacks may be able to be fired backwards, maybe projectiles, but not the area attack. But yeah, you're going to want to use rear fire when the bosses are chasing you. You're also going to want to set remote explosive traps. Set them along the paths that the enemies are following you at, the bosses are following you, and they'll get hit by it a lot of times. So I'll show you some of those tactics when that fight begins. There's nothing really left to explain about this part, because this is the tactics that I've already explained, so I think you get the idea with that. You can ram 2 guys at once, it's great. Don't forget you can back over enemies and do massive damage, so don't worry about trying to get a speeding ram into them. You don't always have to do that. You can grind them too, so it works very well. Machine gun for some chip damage never hurts if you're out of your, especially if you're out of your regular weapons. It's good to use all the time if you can remember to use it. But yeah, for the final level, I'll demonstrate. I'll show when you see me playing the final boss, you'll see what I'm talking about a little bit more. But you're going to be using your radar a lot, which you should be doing. You should have been doing up to this point to know what direction the enemies are coming at and getting ready to line them up and ram them, freeze them and ram them. But yeah, the tight turning and getting used to accelerating, slowing down your acceleration, braking, And using all that together will give you the best maneuverability, especially with Axel, because he's hard to control. That's the main learning curve with Axel. But he's extremely effective, as you can see, once you get him down. I recommend trying to learn this character if you're trying to beat hard. Though, you don't have to. It's not much harder than normal, so if you're good with another character, you'll be fine. But I'd say if you want the easiest time possible, use this character and take a little time to learn him. I think it would be easier for people to use this character. But I haven't played the other characters in a very long time. I haven't played this in a very long time. So yeah, for this level, I like to have enemies come around the corners, and then I like to freeze and ram them to death. I kind of ambush them that way, because there's a lot of corners in this level, and the enemies always pursue you, it seems. So you'll see me hanging out in some of the alleyways where there's corners and waiting for the enemy to come around the corner. Don't forget about your health pickups. There's a lot of them in this level, and you want to get used to where they are. There's also a health pickup that's inside of a car that if you destroy one of the parked cars, I think it's behind me, way back at the end of the level. I don't know if I get it on this run, but there, if you do destroy cars, there's a chance you'll find it. I think there's an indoor area that has a full health 1-up. It may be a full health. I don't know if it's a full health, not 1-up, but first aid. It might be the first aid in the subway. You can go inside the subway, and there's a first aid in there that may give you full health. I think it's one of them that may give you full health, but I don't end up using those in this run. But yeah, now the thing with this to remember is you have 3 lives to take out all 8 of the vehicles. Don't worry about having leftover lives for the bosses, because as I'm going to explain, there's a password for the final boss. And if you use that password, it's a legit password because it shows up in the pause menu. It's just not advertised very much, so you won't. A lot of people don't know that you can do that. I didn't know until recently that you can start at the last boss if you get to him. But if you use that password, you'll have all 3 lives to fight the 2 final bosses. It's a final boss with 2 forms. So for this, just worry about taking out the 8 opponents. If you already got this far, you shouldn't have a problem taking out 8 regular opponents, because you've already taken out 9 in the previous level, and you've beaten, New York, which was a tough level, and the ice level. So this part shouldn't give you too much trouble by this point. It's going to be the same tactics, except like I said, I modified it a little. I would, instead of chasing everyone down, I would wait sometimes around the corners and freeze and then ambush guys. But that was only really the main thing that I changed in my strategy, so not much of a change. For the final bosses, I have a totally different strategy, like I said, that I use for that part. But this is standard. This is just like the same shit you've been doing the last few levels. So Outlaw, as usual, is a huge pain in the ass with his electricity that he constantly spams. So, of course, you want to try to freeze him if you can before ramming him. Otherwise, he can kill you, like I believe I got killed here. Well, it's possible I survived, but, unlikely. Maybe, oh, no, yeah, I guess I survived, but barely. He's very dangerous. It's good to freeze him and ram the shit out of him if you can. So, yeah, now you got the last boss, and if you pause the game, you'll see the password for Darktooth. Keep that in mind. You don't have to redo the whole Hong Kong level every time you die in the last boss, so don't bother doing that. So, alright, so now that you're on Darktooth, my strategy is basically use all the weapons I have when he shows up, and then just get the fuck out of there. Use your turbo, get out of there, grab the first aid packs, and the focus here is going to be on rear firing your weapons by using rear fire, left, right, and back on the directional pad. It's a special move I mentioned. And also grabbing as many weapons as you can before you assault him again. Because if you attack him when you only have a few weapons, that's the first aid on the parked car I mentioned. But yeah, if you assault him when you only have a few weapons, you're going to take a ton of damage. Even with using your shield, you're still going to get hit a lot after the shield wears off. See, I'm rear firing my weapons because I see him on the radar coming at me, so I got some hits in with that. But you're going to take a ton of damage if you hang around him too long. He'll freeze you, and he does a lot of fucking shit. So you want to have full weapons if you can, so you can just spam all your weapons and get rid of them right on his ass, and get the fuck out of there. You know, basically for this guy, it's the only time when I really use heavy hit and run tactics. You know, grab weapons, fire, and just get the fuck out, using the rear fire, as I mentioned. And if you do that for the next 1 or 2 lives, you should be able to take him out within 2 lives. Maybe even 1 if you play well enough, but I think I used 2 lives. And then the last, I don't remember actually, but the last form is just a head. And the head is very aggressive. It can kill you very fast, but it has very low armor. So you can take out the head very quickly if you get all your hits in fast. But you don't want to get too aggressive because it can kill you very fast. So you got to be very careful with that. So yeah, I think I continue the hit and run tactics here. You don't want to stick around too long. But I got him down to about half health at this point. So then I just leave because my health is shitty too. So I try to leave and I try to run around and get health packs when I can. Now as far as the health packs go, they seem to regenerate at random times, which sometimes means if you wait around for them to regenerate, a lot of times it seems like they don't even come back. Or if they do, it takes super long. So I recommend not sitting around and waiting for the health packs in this game. It's better to drive around and come back to the areas where the health packs spawn. But you see, now things get really bad for me. I think I died here. Yeah, but see, now Darktooth is almost dead. So the first form is almost dead. So I collect some weapons, I believe, then I come back and finish him off. Now, then after you kill the first form, you will get all your health back, but you're not going to get your lives back, but you'll get all your health back. So if you have like no health left when you finish off Darktooth, it doesn't matter, because you'll get it all back for the next form. So don't worry too much about that. Just try to survive and kill him. So yeah, I guess I did finish him on pretty much. You know, I didn't expend 2 lives on him. I only wasted 1 life, so you know that gave me a good chance at the head. If you have 2 lives on the head, it's not too bad. So yeah, I think I finish him off here. I recklessly used my detonator and almost blew myself up, but I did kill him. And sometimes I'll use those detonators by putting him in the road where he's following me, and he'll drive right into it and take huge damage. So that's what I was talking about before. I may use that on the head. I'm not sure. I have done it successfully, but I don't know if it was in this successful attempt where I beat both forms. It may have been on a failed attempt, which I posted a lot of that up on my unedited hard mode run, showing most of the fails. Yeah, so now it's just the head. Like I said, he has very low armor, but he does massive damage. He's very aggressive. So I did set a bomb out as a trap because those guys do follow on those roadways a lot. And here I'm mostly focused on collecting up my weapons, so I can assault the shit out of him when he appears. So just try to get to those weapons fast. Use turbo if you have to get away from him. You don't really want him following you. But he will pursue you very aggressively once he gets close to you. He's pretty much constantly seeking you out. Seems much more aggressive than the regular enemies, these bosses. But yeah, spam your weapons. Try to, always make sure you're not accelerating when you shoot those ricochet bombs, because you'll drive right into them. It's kind of ridiculous how slow they move. You'll just drive into them and take damage. Of course, you don't want them to bounce off the wall and bounce back at you. They're very dangerous weapons to use, as is the napalm can be very dangerous as well. But yeah, at this point, you'll be familiar with all that. So I recommend just driving around, trying to collect what you can. Running over the pedestrians, I believe, gives you a little bit of your health back, but you have to run over them and not shoot them. And I think you get some health back by doing that. That's why I was trying to run them over occasionally, but I don't know if it was... I couldn't tell if it was giving me my health back. I read that it does, but didn't really pay attention to if it did or not. But yeah, I think here I'd try to go in here and see if there's some first aid available, which there was. So that gave me a little bit of... So now I'm waiting for the guy around the corner, which if you have a little bit of health, and you're... I knew I had an extra life still left, so I wasn't too concerned at this point. I knew that I could probably kill him with a full health bar, so... I play a little bit riskier. But I'm still playing pretty carefully. I used some rear fire here because I saw him on my radar, but I don't know if I got any hits in with it on this this attempt. But yeah, now I get a little aggressive with him. I blew myself up, which was not a good idea. See, now that tunnel I bounced on top of, in that tunnel was a first aid, I believe, that might give you full health. If you turn to the left, there was a tunnel up there, but... Yeah, so no, I did die, but see, Sweet Tooth then burns to death somehow. I guess he got some burn damage on him, because look, see, it says enemies toasted. So, I guess the residual burn damage, maybe from the napalm or from something, killed him. You know, at the same time I died, he died pretty much. So yeah, that's pretty much it. With those strategies, I think that'll help a lot. So, you know, let me know if that helps. And yeah, if you want to see the ending, check out the unedited playthrough, because that one will have the actual ending. Actually, you know what? I'll probably post up this playthrough without the commentary as well. So maybe check that one. It'll be the same playthrough with the Lost Continues edited out, but it won't have my voice. It'll just have the sound of the game. So if you prefer that, check that out. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.